Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday and welcome back to the channel. My name is Gavin, and without further ado, I am going to introduce our guest, Sean McDonough from Going Through the Motions. Sean, thanks for being here again.
Thank you, Gavin. Thank you for having me back. This is a pleasure.
Yeah, second time on the channel. I'm really glad that you make time for me. I deeply appreciate it. I know we were talking earlier before we started. You are neck deep in this case. For a retired person, you sure are working a lot right now, right?
I'll tell you, this is a full-time job. It really is, but no, it's worth it. It really is. So
yeah. So just to bring everybody in the chat on the same page, we are talking about the murder trial of Karen Reed. Karen is on trial for the murder of her boyfriend, his name is John O'Keefe, 46-year-old Boston PD police officer who was found, I think probably already deceased, but not declared deceased, on the front lawn of a home where he had been invited, or they had been invited to a party, and Karen has been accused of his murder and has indeed been put on trial of his murder. We've been on a break for the last several days, right, Sean?
thank God. Yes, it's been a great break. I can get back to my chores, my outdoor activities. No, but it's been a great break, and I think it's handy to both the prosecution and the defense.
Why did they go on the break?
You know, I understand a juror early on, like before the selection process, or just after the selection process, had a conflict, and instead of adding another person, they decided to yield to this juror. And then I think it was one day, but then the judge said, okay, we'll take the whole week off.
So, I mean, it's already a really long trial.
Yeah, we're starting the 5th week. So the 19th day of testimony starts Monday morning.
Yeah, that actually blows me away. I've covered 3 murder trials locally here in Western Pennsylvania, and including jury selection and even getting to a verdict is like 2 weeks long. And on this case,
Right.
and the way I understand it, they've called something like 40 witnesses now, right?
Yeah, they're up there. Yeah, the prosecution. Yeah, for sure.
And I understand we're about halfway done on the prosecution.
Yes. Yeah. Now that's if they intend to use all those witnesses. This prosecutor has been going back with his order of proof. I think he made a huge mistake in the initial days of this testimony. But
what was that
he
mistake
has to get
that he
there?
made? What mistake did he make?
Okay, so we're knocking on the door of 19th day, and not one shred of evidence has been linked to Karen with this murder 2 investigation. Contrary, the thing that I couldn't believe is Dave Yannetti, in his opening, his first sentence was, Karen Reed was framed for this murder. He put it right out there. And the prosecution has been kind of on the ropes defending against the frame up instead of going full tilt on the evidence that she killed him, according to them. And they put on some police officers, they put on some medics, but they haven't got to, I call it the meat of their case. And we're knocking on the 19th day.
So what do you think the meat of the case, like if you were going to play devil's advocate, because
sure,
obviously we know that your position is that Karen Reed has been framed here, right?
Yes.
But playing devil's advocate, what is the thing that the prosecution has that would, I guess, leap that reasonable doubt barrier?
Right. I mean, they have to show through whatever their theory of how Karen. Okay, I'll be the devil. All right. I'll be the devil's advocate.
All right.
All right. You're saying that woman backed into John starting at 62 feet and came into him at 24 miles an hour. You got to come out and show this jury what your evidence is. You got to do it now, because I fear that the jury has lost, Lally has lost his jury. So he's got to come out. He's got to come out this week. He has to come out now and just basically say, this is our case. This is what she did. This is the evidence we have to prove that she did it. But the problem is, once he steps into the ring, the defense has a lot to combat that whole scenario. But he's got to come out. He has to come out.
What physical evidence do they have? Now, obviously, like, I'm not naive. I know that direct physical evidence isn't the only kind of evidence, and nor is it necessarily the most important kind of evidence in every particular case. But like, the direct physical evidence that they have on here, is it honestly just like broken pieces of taillight, or is there more than that?
Well, they have a victim in John O'Keefe that has injuries from a car accident. They're saying that's from the neck up, except for his right arm that has these, they call it, being the prosecutor here, blunt force trauma from, I guess, the undercarriage. See, that's the thing. I don't know what they're saying. Their theory is, did John get hit? Did the undercarriage get his arm? But there's so much confusion. He got catapulted, 12 feet from this point of impact where he was, I guess. If they're saying she backed up 62 feet at 24 miles an hour, there had to be impact. But how did he get 12 feet from the curb line up into the lawn, which is kind of a semi-hill? You go to the curb line from the street. There's no sidewalk per se. It's a curb. It's like a berm, tar berm, and it inclines up to the flagpole and into a brush there. So, all I know is this: they better have some type of theory, some kind of reconstruction, which I don't know how they're going to do it. I don't know how they plan to reconstruct this accident. They removed, first of all, in the morning, they completely let that scene unprotected until 6 o'clock. Okay, there's no car there. There's no body there. I don't believe the Canton police took any measurements. I don't believe they can put that body back in a specific location. It's going to be general at best. And when I did crime scene, especially accident investigation, you had to get a measurement from a very known object, like a fire hydrant, which they have there. That's a great mark. And measure at least the body, measure where the physical evidence was found. The problem is, and I will give it to them, they were in the midst of a blizzard. I don't know how they're going to reenact or reconstruct this crime scene, because I don't believe they took any documentary like measurements from a
Remind me on this one, Sean, because prior to your work at the DEA, you worked as a CSI. Am I remembering that correctly?
Right. I was a police officer for 7 years. 3 years of that was as a crime scene investigator.
Okay.
It was actually the last assignment I had prior to going into my career with DEA.
Okay. So when it comes to crime scene investigating, you have experience on that. These are things that, when I talked with you, and I talked earlier that, I talked with Jen Coffindaffer, and she said a couple times, they made mistakes on this for sure, but it was this huge blizzard. Now, when I read the comments on that, some of the people who were commenting, my viewers, were saying it wasn't a huge blizzard. There wasn't anything coming down until after. So, I mean, can you kind of tell us what is the truth?
Well, at 12:30, all right, when the Commonwealth alleges John was hit by Karen, there was very to little. There was a dusting, and this is from the witnesses themselves. It snowed during the night, and at about 5 o'clock in the morning, when we have video evidence of Karen backing out of her garage, there's about 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches on the ground at that point. Now, it was coming down hard. There was more wind. It was more of a windstorm at that point, but it was coming down at a rapid pace. All right, so it was the actual beginnings of the storm. Now, when you see the Canton police, when they're using the leaf blower to blow the snow away from the area where they perceived John was at, it didn't look that bad. It looked pretty clear. It was bright daylight, around 7:15 in the morning, and it didn't look that bad. Now, it could be just because of the camera, but clearly the dash cams told a different story. But, Karen's out there, no hat. She's got her jacket open. The cops,
Okay,
the
so
medics are all.
this is like, okay, you're from Boston, right?
I am.
You know when they're like, this wasn't a nor'easter coming through. This wasn't like this huge, crazy shutting down the city kind of thing happening, was it?
Well, they were okay. So the Friday night before, they were forecasting this. The mayor of Boston gave a briefing. The governor gave a briefing. So it was highlighted, but I would say probably 20 to 24 inches fell during the course of the day.
All right.
Yeah. I mean, it was nothing to blow your nose at. It wasn't the blizzard of 78. I can tell you that. I was there for that one. I mean, there was 6 foot banks of snow. I mean, that was the blizzard. But no, this was a good one. This was a nightmare for any police officer to do a crime scene. But they were innovative to use the leaf blower, but they should have done something to protect that crime scene. In the end, because most of the evidence that links Karen to this murder was found after this crime scene was left alone.
Okay.
Everything.
So this is one of those situations where they have the place cordoned off. They're doing their investigation. The blizzard is coming in. They're racing against time. Then they're like, okay, we're done. We leave. We open it back up to everybody. And then later they go back and find evidence.
Literally, yeah. So literally I'll give them 8:00 in the morning. At 8:00, that crime scene was anybody could have trounced through that crime scene. And it wasn't until about 5:30 that evening, police officers came back to do a secondary search with about 18 inches of more fallen snow.
Okay.
And then they find the taillight. Well, it was 2 pieces of red taillight and a clear plastic taillight.
Where did they find those pieces?
We don't know. The reports do not say, but they say somehow in the banks of the snow that were plowed by the snow plows that day. The initial reports are they're horrible. It's just, we found 3 pieces. We turned it over. We found it at the northeast corner of Baba, 18 feet away from this, 6 inches away from that. There is absolutely no detail.
Are there photographs?
There's photographs of at least one to 2 pieces. That's it.
Okay.
There's no measurements. There's no reference points as to how we're going to put this piece. But Gavin, there's 45 pieces that have been found in this investigation.
45 pieces of what?
Of taillight, red taillight. It's they are going to have some issues, but still, being the devil's advocate, you gotta come out with your evidence. You gotta come out with strong evidence this week. You gotta put your lead detective on. He's got some issues. There was questions whether he's going to be able to testify or not. He's under alleged IA investigation. He, I don't know if you know this, he was caught. His personal phone. They was talking to his buddies, and he said, "Yeah, I was looking for nude pictures from Karen's phone that we seized." He called her every name in the book. He wished that she would commit suicide. That type of stuff.
Did he know her anyway? In any way?
He did not. He did not. And this is the problem. I mean, that alone tends to justify why this scene was so ill. Not the scene, the case itself, ill investigated. Almost like she was it and that's it. She's, public enemy number 1. We're going to name her and no one else.
Let me just... Hey, guys, Jamie's already told you this, but just so you know, if you want me to see your comments, put GF in the comments. Those are the ones that I'm filtering out between stuff that you want Sean and I to take a look at and the banter that goes on in the live chat. So if you want me to see it, hit GF in there. So one of the questions that like keeps coming to me here, Sean, is as you're talking about that detective. I mean, that does kind of seem like a thin blue line kind of a issue where the victim is a police officer, and so the police are going to go hard at whoever their suspect is.
Absolutely.
Is that the kind of stuff that is happening there? I want to get nudes of her. I want to go through her phone. Because she killed one of ours.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, there was a rush. There was a rush to arrest her. The investigation was basically, it was done backwards. She was named by them early on as the one and only suspect. Okay. And then if you think about this, not one piece of evidence was found until after that SUV was in their possession. There was nothing. There was a glass found. There was some 6 things, droplets of blood that was collected in red Solo cups. Right. But to think about it, it wasn't until after that SUV was actually seized by them. And now we have a problem with the seizure of the vehicle. They found the vehicle. They didn't find it. She told them where they were. She voluntarily handed over her phone, and she said, yeah, take my car. They were going to take it anyways, but it didn't matter. They had the vehicle at 7 o'clock. They could have taken it at any time in better conditions, but they let this vehicle drive so far, like 40 miles away from the Canton area. Now, this is my thing. Who's to say that vehicle did not get damaged during the ride from Canton to her parents' residence in Dighton? It's in a snowstorm. Everyone who went to the hospital with the family talked about how bad the roads were leaving the hospital, right? She left the hospital also after being sectioned. She had to drive. Well, her parents brother came. They had to drive from Canton back down to Dighton, which is about 40 miles away. Who's to say that car didn't get in an accident? It's like the old DUI thing, right? If you don't get the person behind the wheel at the time you stop the car, how can you prove that person didn't drink 3 hours after the car accident? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You got to have it has to be contemporaneous. In this case, when they did get to Dighton, the lead detective in his affidavit, this is where I was able to get this taillight project started. The lead detective said, we noticed that the right side of the taillight was shattered with a large piece missing. The interesting thing about that is we know that she backed into a vehicle. Right. It backed into John's vehicle, right? That was definitely a crack in the car. We can see it as she's leaving where the vehicle, the taillight in the back was cracked. Yeah. 2 witnesses said the taillight was cracked. Jen McCabe and Kerry Roberts. When it leaves, the right side is completely intact. You can see the LEDs, you can see the red glare, no red plastic is missing. If I had the ability to show you these pictures that I have, you would see clearly as that car is moving out at 5:08, the right side, this is the part, the affidavit kills this detective. And you know this too, Gavin, he never took a picture of that vehicle when he seized it. And everything, if it's not documented, it didn't exist. If it's not written down, it doesn't exist. And this is the thing about documentation. However, when they get back to Canton, which was the PD was supposed to be recused, they drive it all the way back to Canton, another 40 miles on the back of a tow truck, right? A ramp truck. Yeah. The ring camera from Karen's parents shows that the lights were functioning on the back of that taillight, on the back of that SUV. The taillight was functioning normally. I suggest that anyone look at the final product when they finally took a picture back again. There's no LEDs. There's no wires. 2 layers of polycarbonate are gone.
Okay, so and the timeline here, just so to make sure I'm following you here, Sean, the timeline would be that, okay, at whatever time it was, the tail light has a crack in it. Everything's okay. And then,
That's at 5:08 in the morning.
that's at 5:08 a.m. Okay. And
Yeah,
then,
4:30 in the afternoon, they seized the vehicle.
and the tail light was working and fine.
Yeah, you can see it on the ramp, the ramp truck that the tow brought it back from Dighton to the Canton PD.
Okay. Getting to the point where they go and they allegedly find, pieces of that polycarbonate. What time was that?
Well, now hold on. Now you're forgetting something. So when they get to the Canton PD, there's a video of them going in to the sallyport where they're going to put the vehicle on the 29th. 42 minutes of that video is gone.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, this gets better from our last conversation, Gavin. 42 minutes of that video that's clear as daylight on 3 days afterwards when they're actually taking the taillight off. The unfortunate part is no pun intended, the damage was already done on the 29th. During the part of those 40, they said the car got back to Canton around 5:36.
Okay.
There is no video of the SUV being driven into that sallyport. You wouldn't be able to see the taillight at that time.
So the idea for the frame job is that they busted up the taillight there, took it out to the scene, and magically found 3 pieces, and then ultimately found 47 pieces.
Exactly. And I'll give you one more clue, one more fact. I have 2 sources have absolutely confirmed that state police found every piece and they put it back together.
Every single piece, not one missing.
Put it back together. Now, I asked the source, how did they do it? With super glue? Did they tape it? And they just said, Sean, take our word for it. It's put back together. I said, I'm going to call bullshit. I normally do. But this and Gavin, in a blizzard. So
with plows going by. Yeah, that seems unlikely that every single piece would be found.
Every single piece is allegedly put back together. And,
okay.
And I circled in my little taillight project that most of these people have seen ad nauseum. I will say it makes me sick to do it again. I put a circle around a part of that taillight. And I said back in September of last year, I said, if any part inside that circle is in evidence, it was planted. The person one of the sources told me, Sean, all that circle is in evidence. I said, well, there it is. You cannot have that red plastic at 5:08 in the morning, yet have it in evidence where they say was on the ground 4.5 hours prior to 5:08.
Right.
This is crazy, Gavin.
I'm following.
It makes me even more crazy.
Okay, so the taillight is a big thing. The markings on his arm are a big thing.
Yes.
And I guess you're wondering, I mean, to me, and I did another video on this, I looked at those look like dog bites to me. I'm sorry.
No doubt.
Like to everybody watching that disagrees with me, I can respectfully disagree with you. But those look like freaking dog bites, man. It doesn't look like the bottom of a car. It doesn't look like a broken, martini glass or something like that. Cut him.
No.
There are puncture wounds there.
Yeah. My son is a doctor. He said, Dad, I can tell you right now, that's an animal. Some type of animal did those wounds. And
okay. I moved on from, I'm sorry, before we keep on that track, let me go back to the 42-minute thing.
Okay.
Okay. So you've worked in law enforcement for an entire career, right?
I have.
In your experience, and I'm asking honestly, this is not rhetorical. I'm asking genuinely.
Sure.
Because there are other cases that I care about deeply where there's mysteriously missing footage.
Right.
Are the IT departments in local police departments not good? Or, I mean, does stuff like that missed a lot? Does stuff like that go missing a lot?
No, not that I've ever heard. It's happened at least 2 times in this case. Now, originally, the excuse was there was times it was motion activated. No police department is going to have a motion activated camera because you want to have complete coverage of that station at any given time. God forbid if it's an attack or whatever, you don't want to have motion activated. But we now know it's not motion activated. We now know that it's a full spool. It just keeps running and running. And
well, what would have to happen to make that go away is multiple people would have to be involved in that. I mean, listen, so I'm an old IT guy, right? Going all the way back to when backups were done on tape.
Sure.
There were always backups of backups. And in order to destroy backups, there had to be a person that was the gatekeeper to that backup. So if footage is missing on basically what is a glorified DVR, that's basically what those security systems are, right?
Sure.
But if something is missing off of that, it would also have to be missing off of its backup. Or you would have to convince me that the police department doesn't have backups, which would tell me that their IT departments suck. So that's what I'm wondering. Like, are the IT people in police agencies bad? Or is this a conspiracy?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a conspiracy. I'll tell you why. The 42 minutes puts one of the third-party culprit suspects in the garage with the chief of police, who was supposed to be on medical leave. The ATF agent allegedly was with the chief of police, and there's going to be a police witness to testify for I forget the name of the word they used, a long period of time with the chief by the SUV.
The chief is called in from vacation from one of the people that were there.
Well, he called himself in. Once this became known, he was there early in the morning. There's phone calls between Brian Albert, the house owner, Brian Higgins, and the chief early in the morning. This Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, when he leaves the Albert residence after they had the little friends and family meeting, he goes directly to the Canton Police Department. He is all over that area with the police officers. And at the critical moment where this vehicle is being brought in by the tow truck driver, who, by the way, said, I would have had to document any damage if I saw it. This is what my job depends on it. He said there was absolutely no damage. He saw the photo, the big photo it's all going on. He says, there is no way that car had that damage when I towed it. It just keeps mounting and mounting. But the 42 minutes it's crazy. It is absolutely insane that these people could throw this down our throats and think we're going to believe it. So it's at 6:00 where the CERT team for the Massachusetts State Police, the Special Emergency Response Team, comes out and they got shovels. And lo and behold, they find a large piece of taillight, just like the affidavit says, right? Because, affidavits are written after the fact, right?
Right.
A large piece, and that taillight is completely shattered. As a matter of fact, it's gone. Every piece of red, except for a small little sliver at the top right-hand corner, furthest right, is gone. Where the side was absolutely intact. I call it intact at 5:08 in the morning. The video clearly shows it. Now,
intact with maybe like a crack on it or something, I guess.
On the back, on the back of we determined that traverse was hit. There's a clear piece of light, right, which is called the backup light, the backup and emergency flashes. She cracked it there because when she's pulling out, you can literally see a gap where there's no light. And then when she puts the brakes on, you can see everything lit up. But when the light is normal, and you can see it from the left side as an example, everything is functioning correctly except there's a space. I have a picture with a green arrow. It's clear as daylight. But the side, because that's what the affiant did. He said he swore to this affidavit. This was the arrest affidavit. We were arresting her because when we saw the vehicle, the right side was, because they had to make it the right side, right? Because John was on the right side. So the right side was shattered with a large piece missing. We know the large piece is rounded. One of our photos shows that the rounded part of that taillight is still on the car at 508.
Okay.
They have serious problems with this case. Serious.
Okay, so getting back to the actual case that has been presented, we're like 40 witnesses in over 18 days of testimony.
Right.
One of the things that I saw is that they took the jury to the crime scene. And I know that that's not unheard of. I also know that it's rare. Right. But can you tell us a little bit about like, what was it that the prosecution is hoping to get out of taking the jury to the crime scene?
Well, I guess they wanted to see, because in pictures, and it doesn't really do it justice, in pictures, you think that this front lawn is long and it's huge. It's not. It's very narrow. There's not much space. It's, you have the perception is really off on that. But Gavin, they had the SUV there. They had the actual
That's
SUV.
what I read. Yeah, they brought
in
the
evidence.
SUV.
It's supposed to be in evidence there. And I thought that was I thought it was very prejudicial to the defense, but I guess the defense signed off on it. I couldn't believe that it was there. It showed that the taillight was removed, right? But it gave and then one of the I guess it was Lally, the prosecutor, said, make sure you look at the center console. Well, the center console is gone. I mean, I don't know what the hell he was referring to, because I thought the console would be the gear shifter, but the entertainment center with the backup, video screen, that's all gone. If you looked in, there was people that, I guess it didn't matter at this time, but they could have touched this vehicle. They had there was a cop there watching, but
why
I just
was
never
that
saw
all gone? Why was the center console stuff gone?
I guess they took out the entertainment. I guess because they're analyzing the entertainment informatics service. Who knows?
I wonder if there is like in a Traverse, like I know that there are some vehicles that record from the cameras, like Tesla famously records, their cameras and stuff like that. I wonder if the Traverse records anything.
Well, it's the Lexus. I'm
sorry,
sure.
the Lexus. Yeah.
It may. I'm not sure, but they had the EDR, the black box.
Yeah.
But
none of that has been brought up yet at trial. Has the black box?
There was a lot of talk about it pre-trial, and that has not been brought up yet. The problem is, I don't believe there's any timestamps on that information. That's the issue. A lot of people are saying that there's really no timestamps, even if it was recorded. So they're going to have to do a little soft shoe shuffle on some of this evidence.
All right. So, there were a couple of testimonies that, I mean, in our previous video, we talked about the red Solo cups.
Oh.
Yeah.
Gavin, they're right next to the car. You talk about, listen, I don't care what they say. That bag was right next to the vehicle. They get a picture of it. I mean, come on. Why would you put those cups so close to the vehicle, especially when you're alleging that DNA from John was found?
Oh, I have not made that connection.
Oh my God.
I have
Gavin,
not made that connection.
I told you, Gavin, I hate this. I hate laughing about this, but that's how crazy these people, I don't know if they're stupid or just crazy or just.
It honestly could be a police officer putting his finger into a red Solo cup and doing this on the car, and DNA is now on the car.
There was a rag that looked like it had dried up blood on it. I mean, let's face it. You mentioned the gatekeepers. The gatekeepers had the clothes. They definitely had glass, right? They collected glass, right?
Yeah.
They had the blood, and they clearly had the taillight. And none of that linked up to Karen until after 5:30 that afternoon. And then mysteriously it was all there. And the hair, I don't understand this hair. It's a non-issue now, but how the hell is the hair stay on a bumper from 12:30 at night in a snowstorm, goes back and forth 90 some odd miles, and it's still on the goddamn bumper? Yeah, I mean, you live in Pennsylvania, you know, slush, all the wind, slush. How the hell is the hair? I mean, well, anyways.
Okay.
It's just,
I hadn't made that connect. My question about this, like, if it's a frame job, which I mean, that's the way I'm leaning on it. But, okay. So you beat up this guy in your home, you throw him out on the lawn, hoping that he gets plowed over or whatever. Right. And you're
perceived to be plowed. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Your, plans don't go to, I guess they don't go to fruition the way that you want them to. But what I'm trying to figure out is why put a frame around Karen? Why not just say, I don't know what, here he was. Why put a frame around somebody else?
So I guess what happened was, I mean, and this is speculation on my part, but it wasn't until after Jen McCabe found out from Karen and her own self that, you know, did I hit him? And, I have a cracked taillight, right? So they started putting two together. Gavin, there are medical reports that written down that Karen assaulted John with a cocktail glass. That was the investigation that the state police was doing. And it was confirmed again by the sergeant. His name is Yuri Buchanek. He said at 10:41, we are still working this case as a domestic assault with a cocktail glass. Now,
so for hours, like 5 hours, they haven't decided to frame her up yet.
Meanwhile, the car is sitting 2 miles away from the scene at the residence. Okay. And because she got sectioned, she got conveniently taken away from being interviewed by the cops or being around the scene. And obviously she passed whatever the hell they gave her, because usually when you get sectioned, down here it's called Baker Act, they leave you in a hospital for 72 hours. She was in, she got there around 7:45. She was out by 12:30. And she passed all the tests. I mean, they conveniently got her off the street away from everyone. There's a special meeting that took place inside 34 Fairview. You had Brian Higgins, you had Brian Albert, Nicole, Jen McCabe, Matt McCabe. You had most of the prime suspects, I'm calling them suspects, at the residence, meeting with each other up until over past 9:30. Then you had the interviews at Jen McCabe's house at 11:30. And by that time, I call him the evil genius, the mastermind. Brian Albert said, there is no way they're going to believe a 95-pound woman soaking wet could kill John in this manner with the bruises. There's no way. There's no way. So they said, we're going with the car accident. But at that point, they had no evidence because the car was in the wind. And there was clearly nothing. When the Canton police were asked, did you happen to see 47 pieces of red plastic? They all said no. But Gavin, they found clear glass in snow. They missed a size 12 sneaker, and they missed the hat.
But they found the glass.
But they found clear glass and, of course, the blood.
Okay. So, man, my chair is like
blower
going down on me. I don't know. My chair is failing. It's probably some kind of indication of incredulity here, but okay. I know that Jen McCabe took the stand.
Yes.
I watched some of it. I think she testified over 2 or 3 days, didn't she?
It was at least 2 days. It was at least, she had she had full, 1 day and the next day. Yeah.
Okay. So tell me your thoughts on Jennifer McCabe's testimony, just in general. I mean, the internet does not like Jen McCabe all that much.
I'll give you and I watched every second of it. She was tough as nails. a lot of YouTube content creators are calling her a soccer mom. She was very tough. I will have to say she got her money's worth from whoever prepped her. It was probably Kevin Reddington, this high-powered attorney that she has, but she was tough as nails. The problem is she really backed herself into a corner that she literally cannot get out. Her direct examination, as all of them, was good. It was very good, and she made one of the few to this day, one of the few of the 40. Even some of the police officers never looked once at the jury. She made eye contact with that jury. She was very good. She impressed me. The problem is they all look good on their direct until they get Jacksoned or they get Yanetti'd. And then it starts to get a little sideways. She's got issues with her sighting of the Jeep, the elusive Jeep of Brian Higgins, right?
Okay.
She and her husband claim that Jeep is parked on the street in front of the mailbox. She says she sees Karen's vehicle clearly in front of the Jeep. And she says that she clearly sees the Ford F-150 pull up behind the Jeep. And that's how she sees the lights coming through the Jeep onto Karen's car. And Karen's car is moving 3 times. Okay? She's got herself boxed in. Now, her husband says the same thing. And of course, Brian Higgins says after he drops the plow at 12:05, 12:10, there was no snow on the ground. He drops the plow, he says, and does a sweep. I don't know what the hell he swept, because when they leave the waterfall, there's nothing sticking to the ground. Maybe there was something, but not enough. He'd be bringing up sparks from his plow onto the asphalt. Anyways, he says he parked by the mailbox. So you got 3 of the main people inside the house said it's parked on the street by the mailbox. But then they all got skin in the game. But you got the 3 normal people who literally followed Karen and John down from Cedar Crest to the house on Fairview. And they say she pulled up to the driveway. She stopped a little further up, and then she went another 20 yards up by the flagpole. Completely unobscured. Nothing was in the way. All 3. Ryan Nagel says, absolutely, I saw no Jeep, never saw a Jeep. Now, they're there at the critical time. But with Jennifer McCabe, she's boxed herself in. And I think, for whatever reason, Higgins was so shit-faced, I'm sorry to say this, because he said he had 4 to 5 whiskeys.
All right.
You go to a, let's face it, that was a blue-collar cop bar. All the cops went up to Hillside. I used to go to Hillside.
Okay.
They probably gave him doubles, right?
Right.
God knows what he had at the funeral, and and driving back with the guys. Who knows? They got a bottle in the car. Who knows? He probably didn't remember where the Christ he parked. But he says, I saw a tall guy with dark hair come into the house. He's the only one that says this. But getting back to Jen McCabe, she's got an issue with the Jeep. She's got an issue with the timeline. The timeline here is critical, very critical. She's calling John at the time that the Commonwealth is saying he was hit. And she's saying, yeah, pull up behind me. She's saying she sees the car still there, pulling up behind me, is at 12:41, 12:44.
15
Karen
minutes
is
after.
home.
Yeah, okay.
Karen is home at 12:41. Listen, even Brian Higgins, his timeline is critical. He says he leaves between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. But he doesn't check in to get the keys at the police station until 1:27. What the hell? Where was he for all that time?
Okay.
Listen, they've got issues. They've got issues. But the big thing is the 227 Google search. That is
the part that I watched. That is the part that I watched. I actually,
Right.
I would say that she was pretty tough, because she said stuff like, that is what the report shows. But what I'm telling you
Right.
is this, right? Like she was really tough on
Right.
the
Right.
defense. Like, yeah, I agree that that's what that shows, but it's not what I'm
Right.
testifying to.
Well, she had to say that. She has known about this now for 2.5 years. She knows this is, without a doubt, this will be the stake that goes through her heart that will crucify this case. It is. You can't be Googling how long to die in the cold at 2:27 when you supposedly don't know that your friend of 10 years is beat up in that house.
Yeah, and I played around a little bit.
Huh?
I'm sorry. I played around a little bit with an old phone. I was like,
Yeah,
so with my IT background, especially
sure.
in database administration, like there is no way I would ever make a database or an application that interface with that database that would indicate that a search was made at whatever 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, and it says 2:47 a.m. I would not do that, right? And
Right.
so I was like, I've looked at the little SQL databases within a cell phone, but let me actually write a wall file. And so on my phone, I did basically what they claimed that she did, right? I did a search on my phone, and then instead of waiting for 6 hours, I waited for 4 minutes, and then I closed the tab, which is the delete, right?
Sure.
And then I opened up my phone. I did a data dump of it. I looked at the raw information there, and sure enough, there was a record that I had closed the tab. So I just don't see how you can claim that that 2:40 or 2:27 a.m. search is actually a 6 a.m. something search. It just it's a write ahead file. It's not important. What's important is in the database. No, the write ahead files are what eventually make it into the database. Come on.
Sure. Yeah. So she's holding steadfast. I was looking at basketball scores. Okay. The problem she has is, all right, I can see making a mistake. If she makes 3 entries, one at 6:23 and either 2 at 6:23 and 1 at 6:24, or 1 at 6:23 and 2 at 6:24.
Right.
She types in twice, "House long to die in the cold." That to me, and then it came out. Well, you messed up the first time. It's like how T and then CUILK or something, whatever she did, she could some crazy thing.
Yeah.
I get that. It's cold, but to type in "house long to die" twice.
Yeah.
And then delete the other one. The other one was deleted. And the fact that he said, say it. Say how long to die. She wouldn't say it. That to me is consciousness of guilt. She would not. She says, of certain things that came out, that to me was a pivot point of this trial.
When Sean, explain to our viewers
Yes.
why consciousness of guilt is important.
Oh my God. They are the gatekeepers of the information. All right. They know what happened. Right. So when you know this information, it's like your children, right? You have kids. They know what they did. They took the extra cookie. They did this, and they're looking around.
Yeah, it's like the dog going like this.
The dog put the ears down.
Right.
She's trying to wipe herself off. And body language, she backs up. The eyes are blinking. When she's saying yes, she's actually shaking her head no. I'm telling you, this consciousness of guilt is huge because she did not want to say those words at all. And until she got to the safety valve of 6:24, and then she said it, but then she says a caveat, but I made the mistake because I was shaking, I was cold, and Karen's shaking me, and I got MS. Ball of confusion, ball of excuses. And here's the thing, Celebrite, which is the creme de creme, right? The creme de creme that's used by all law enforcement. This kid, Ian Whiffen, I don't care who he is. The FBI, their own people, found this. They found the 6:23. They found the 2 at 6:24, and they found the one at 227. FBI and Celebrate are like this. They use this on everything. This is going to kill the prosecution when they come up to testify.
I wonder what the prosecution is doing during this break. They've got to understand where they are, right? Like, one of the questions that I've gotten on the fish tank several times, by the way, guys, that's a good segue. If you are on Facebook, you'll forgive me here for a second, Sean, but if you're on Facebook,
sure.
Please join us over on the fish tank. We're about 1,000 people strong now, and we like to talk about the cases that I cover here on the channel. But on the fish tank, one of the things that people have been asking is, isn't there enough reasonable doubt here? Like, it seems like there's already enough reasonable doubt. Is this going to be one of those things where, one, the prosecution, after taking several days off, has been assessing where they are, and might they pivot in the way that they're presenting the case? And then what do you think the defense is thinking as far as where they are, where they sit in the jurors' minds? Are they feeling comfortable that there's enough reasonable doubt here, you think?
I think that the prosecution has purposely created reasonable doubt. Why would you take a picture of the 6 Solo Cups within 2 feet of the vehicle that's deemed the murder weapon?
You think the prosecution might be throwing this? They're the Pete Rose of prosecution.
I think they've been trying to have this thing thrown for months, and the judge wouldn't bite on it. I think they've done, and no, who didn't bite on it? The defense didn't bite on it. Look at how many months, maybe almost a year and a half of evidence that was never discovery, that was never turned over them in the timely fashion. Excuse after excuse after excuse. And the defense, most defense attorneys will complain for the high heaven. You had an obligation to turn this over months ago.
Yeah.
They never screamed. They did, but it was a kind of a light pushback, because they got to show that not only is Karen innocent, they got to show that John was killed in that house for a lot of reasons. And that's why the defense has a dual obligation: clear their client and get justice for John, and show that if he wasn't killed by the car, he was killed inside. Because the FBI Reconstruction team shows their people showed that he could not be killed by that car. They're going to show that.
Do you think FBI agents and employees will be called to the stand on behalf of the defense on this?
As of right now, they have a lab person at the regional laboratory, electronic lab, which I believe is in Boston, is going to show that the Celebrate data that they did. Now, I'm not sure if he's a full-fledged FBI agent. The Reconstructionists were paid from the Department of Justice. These people got high qualifications. It's called ARCO. These 3 individuals, they're going to have 3D animations. They're going to show at any given speed how a 220-pound body at 24 miles an hour would not be catapulted 12 feet up an incline, and not have the injuries consistent with a Lexus hitting you.
Yeah, that is one of those things where, like, I'm glad you brought that up, but like, I have a friend that I will keep nameless, but she's a former prosecutor.
Sure.
And there was a cold case in her office that she got permission to look into kind of on the side. And one of the very first things that she did was she got a forensics weighted dummy, went to all the thrift stores in the area to get the exact clothing of the victim, just to try out, is this story that we're getting that, I don't want to give too much away on this, but basically she was able to prove to herself, now this is bullcrap. We need to go to another direction. Right.
Right.
I mean, you'd think that if the prosecution believed that she backed up at 24 miles an hour, traveled 62 feet, hit a 220-pound man, he goes flying 12 feet, they should have been able to reenact that, don't you think?
Well, you would think physics is going to kill them. The law of physics is going to kill this theory, because a 3.5 ton, almost a 6,000 pound vehicle traveling at 24 miles an hour is going to topple. It's going to topple the 220 guy, run over him, not break the taillight. It's going to run over him, right? You're going to have other damage. The taillight is not going. There's 2 layers of polycarbonate coating, plastic on that taillight, designed to crush in, not out. And their witnesses are saying that they saw pieces hanging out. The force is supposed to be hitting in. Everything was inside. They tried to get the white plastic glass from the backup light out, and they went too far because it cracked the whole thing. They smashed it trying to get little pieces out. That was done by her backing in to John's Traverse.
Yeah, okay.
That's going to come out.
All right.
One of those cops are going to give it up. One of them will. I'm telling you.
Sean, we've had you for almost an hour. Let me go through a couple of guest comments here real quick.
Sure.
And see if there are any questions.
I can't believe, because you know something, it seems like we just started. I can't believe an hour goes that quickly.
It does. Let's see. Going through the super chats first, Nikki Johnson says, Jen is Nicole Kessinger in the Canton boat crash. Yeah, let's see. Reality check. Sorry, Nikki, thank you for that super chat. And reality check, thank you. GF anyway, for feds to analyze sallyport video and see if it was deleted or tampered with. Is there a forensic, I guess, trail of evidence left behind when somebody tries to delete a video? Do you know, Sean?
Yeah, there has to be. No, there has to be, because there's going to be a gap. I mean, we know that there was motion for the whole period of time. Even if they want to say it's motion activated, that car had many people around it for hours. So to have the 42 minutes at the precise time that would be logical, before the search, that's the time they were getting the pieces. I'm all in. So I'm going to be all in on my theory. That's when they smashed it. They went too far, and then they had to bring down the big piece with another small piece and another clear plastic. And then the other 44 were found during the week. Yeah. One was, Gavin, one was found on February 18th.
Oh, my goodness.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
All right. And by the way, Gavin, undocumented searches, 5 of them. Undocumented.
They just went and searched and went, hey, look what I found. Yeah, that's messed up.
Not even that. It was a surprise to the defense. They didn't even know until they were given this discovery back in July. They said, wait a minute, we never got this. And there's no reports. No reports. Just a bag saying February 18th, 34 Fairview. Come on.
Yeah.
Sloppy.
That's what
I'm saying. I think they want to throw this case.
It's purposeful.
I think they want to throw this case from get-go.
All right. Uncle Fredo says, please ask Sean about a connection. I know that people are typing with their thumbs here, so I think it's a connection between lead investigator and people involved. Is there a connection between that lead investigator and what you would call the suspects inside the house?
Yeah, there is. Okay, so he claims well, he hasn't said it, but his sister is very good friends with a sister of a wife of one of the family members, but it goes deeper than that. There was a former Canton police officer turned Mass State Trooper who emphatically said that Proctor, the lead investigator, should have recused himself because he and Proctor used to swim at barbecue parties that Brian Albert would throw back in the day. He said, as a state trooper, I know Proctor was in it, and I believe they're going to bring up a witness from Tennessee that's going to say, I and Proctor, we used to be at Brian's house.
Okay,
but,
let's see. Super chat.
Oh, here's another one.
Oh, go ahead.
So the mother of one of the third-party culprits, Colin Albert, the 17, 18-year-old, the mother texted Proctor saying, when Karen was arrested, we owe you a gift. This was caught on text. And he says, no, I can't take it, but give it to Lizzie. Lizzie is his wife.
Oh my
I mean,
goodness.
come on.
Come on.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
another reason why he's under investigation.
That is messed up. Andrea Anti-Everything, thank you for your super chat. She says, what are the motivations of Coffindaffer and Pat Brown to be so openly wrong? Shock value, laziness. Sean, thank you for getting justice for the two real victims.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm happy to hear your opinion on that.
I'm the wrong guy to ask that question too. If anybody knows me, I'm the wrong guy to ask that question. But anyways,
well, I will just say, listen, people come to their own conclusions, and I think that many people come to them honestly. So, and so I don't think we need to go past that.
To me, Gavin, it was reading the reports. It was reading the reports and having experience. Experience.
Saints Girl, thanks for the super chat. She says, have you looked into Albert's department with the Birchmore SI case closed with no investigation? She was pregnant and named married officer as the dad. I don't follow that question. Do you?
Yeah, I do. So there's a Sandra Birchmore who was a Canton resident. She committed suicide, but there's video of the daddy, the baby, the daddy going into the apartment. He was the last one to see her. He comes out, and her phone from that moment when he comes out never moved. And 4 days later, check on the welfare, she is found to be dead by suicide. The father was the father of that baby had been with her since she was a juvenile. She was in her 20s. It's a horrible case. The case stems out of Canton. The same players are involved. 4 different police officers says the ligature were 4 different things: leather, a belt, a string, some other. 4 different cops described the ligature around her neck, and she did it by the doorknob, the old doorknob thing.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Not good. Another one.
These are some of the reasons that the Canton PD is believed by many people to be corrupt, is that there are stories like this.
Absolutely. This happened a year prior to the John O'Keefe case.
Wow. Okay, Ciara says, if Alberts admit to the FBI, will the public know? Thank you for that super chat, Ciara. What do you think?
Absolutely. Sure. Absolutely they will. Yeah. Absolutely.
Let's see if there's anything. Oh, go ahead.
No, they have to. They will. Listen. My theory is this: they're just sitting back, letting this happen. They're not going to let Karen go down on this because Karen's civil rights were violated. That's why Karen was being brought in to their investigation. People see it the wrong way. Other content creators are saying that she and Yannetti and Jackson went to them. No, the FBI went to Karen because they knew. And the question is, how do they know? Well, in the 3,074 pages that were handed over to the judge and to the prosecution lies that answer. But it's protected, and they can't give it up yet. They almost one of the witnesses did say, "Oh, you mean the feds?" When I went to see the feds, they could have opened the door right then and there, but Jackson was smart. He backed off. And it worked for Jackson because the judge said, you're not going to bring up anything about the federal investigation unless it comes up naturally. Well, it did. And Jackson, he backed up. He backed off of it. Thank God. I think it worked in his favor.
Let's see. There was one other question. It wasn't a super chat, but this is a question that I had as well. Like, okay, if they don't want to win, meaning the prosecution, why prosecute? It makes no sense to me and has drawn so much attention to this from people all over the world. Why not just leave it unsolved?
Because if they were protecting another source, another party, all right, they have to, I hate to say it, they have to go through the motions, right? And they have to make sure that, we give it our best and we lost. But Karen, we believe Karen did it. And then everyone goes home and no one gets any more investigation. But they didn't plan on the FBI being in their backyard doing the investigation behind their backs. And they have the real deal. I'm telling you, can't come out with everything, but they have it. The FBI has it all.
Hey, Sean, thanks for joining me today, man.
Hey.
That I know that you have just been tirelessly covering this case. I appreciate you taking some time to come on with me to talk about the trial and the presentation that the prosecution is making. I cannot wait to see what the defense does. I'm wondering if they even make a presentation. I'm wondering if there's enough enough reasonable doubt that they just say we're done.
I think the judge might just give a directed verdict. I don't think we're 19 days starting Monday. There has been nothing linking Karen to this murder. They better get on their horse and do something. I hit him. No, did I hit him? Jennifer McCabe said multiple times, 3 grand juries. She said, did I hit him? The first time she said, I heard her say, I hit him, was on the stand. How did that go by? She never once reported she heard her say, I hit him. It was like, did I hit him? Could I have hit him? Three different reports and 2 grand juries. One a state grand jury and one a federal grand jury. So.
Well, okay. And there are more false endings to this live stream than a Tchaikovsky symphony. I'm sorry about that, but that makes me ask the question here.
Yes.
Will she has said obviously 2 different things, and one of them is, all of them, at least 3 of them that you said are under oath, right? Will she be Will she be held to account on that? As far as perjury,
she's going to be charged in the conspiracy. Her perjury is nothing compared to the conspiracy.
Okay, good point.
She can't miss going down for the conspiracy. She's the one that made the big boo-boo at 227. She Googled that.
Yeah.
And I'm guaranteed Brian said, you fool. Hey, one more question. One more thing.
Yeah.
The dog, right? The big ferocious Chloe, right? We have an issue here, right? Brian says Chloe's in the bed on the floor next to him and Nicole. His testimony is Jen burst in all excited, and she says to Brian at 6:30, John's dead. Okay. Jen says, I never saw the dog. No one saw the dog that morning, which is led to believe that the dog left with the daughter and her boyfriend that night at 1:45 in the morning.
Dog needed to get out of there.
The dog needed to be gonzo. And think about it. The owner says she burst in. You know a dog is going to react.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then who let the dog out to go to the bathroom? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I have 3 dogs. We're structured. I get up in the morning. I go first. Then they go. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Oh, Gavin, I'm telling you, this is always it's a sad story, but I love seeing your expressions because it's crazy. It is crazy, this whole thing.
Yeah. Well, listen, let's check back in after another several weeks, shall we?
Anytime, Gavin.
All right, stick around for me, Sean. I'm just gonna do this ending. Stick around for me real quick. Okay?
Yeah, I definitely will. And thank you to your followers. If you want to come over, I just give it a little plug here.
Absolutely.
I do the court hearings every court day. We start at 8:00. I do it live with Dylan Davies. He's a YouTube person at the Alternate Corner. He lives in Wales. And we collaborate and we do the whole trial, but we don't say anything during the trial. At breaks, we'll give a little commentary. And then at 6:00, every trial night, I do a recap on my channel going through the motions. So if you want to come on over,
please do.
You're more than welcome.
And the link is in the title of this video.
Yeah.
I will add it to the description as well, guys. Click on that link, go over to Going Through the Motions and subscribe to Sean's channel. He's doing God's work on this one. And I hope you keep it up. I hope because you're doing such a good job. I hope after this case you keep it up because you're doing great and you're growing quickly. It's pretty fun to watch.
Yeah, I think the next case will be that Sandra Birchmore. That's a crucial case. It's a very sad case. So same players involved almost.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
All right, guys. That's going to do it for us. Sean, you stick around for a second. That's going to do it for us, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for the super chats. Please, if you ever want to reach out to me, go over to my website, gavinfish.com. If you're on Facebook, please join the fish tank. Just search the fish tank or search Gavin Fish. You will find it. With that, I bid you adieu, and I will see you on the next one. Take care. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked what you saw, please consider subscribing. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below.